there are adult themes in this episode, and it may not be appropriate for all for children or for all audiences.
If you are not comfortable talking about the actual happenings of October the 7th, it's those types of things that we're going to talk about, because when we do a teaching on Hamas, we do a teaching on what the Bible says the word means. And those things that happened on October the 7th to women, we're very explicit about what happened. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what happened to the young women. We're going to talk about what the Bible says. The Bible uses a lot of euphemisms for say it.
Euphemisms.
Euphemisms. The Bible uses a lot of euphemisms to. For this, we're going to talk very directly about it, and we're going to talk about the meaning of Hamas, what it means, and that's part of it, guys. So. And
Hamas is not a euphemism; it's a very explicit term. So, if you're not comfortable with that, consider this a warning, and you might want to skip this episode. Habakkuk 1:9.
They all come bent on rapine.
What's the word?
Rapine.
How do you spell that?
Rapine.
What does that mean?
You tell me.
So according to the prescriptive dictionary,
okay,
rapine means the violent seizure of one's property. Okay.
The thrust of their van is forward.
Oh, and this is interesting. So the example the dictionary gives, this is from Oxford Languages, I guess, but I got it from Google, is the fruits of violence and rapine. So here's an example of the concept I said before, where you say two things that are the same or they're overlapping, right? So the fruits of violence and rapine. So rapine is the violent seizure of property. So it's violence and rapine, but rapine is violent, but it's a specific type of violence, right? So these go together. They're very related concepts. And that's exactly like Hamas v'shod, Hamas and pillaging, because Hamas is violence. Which includes pillaging.
This is they amass captives like sand.
Right. So here's what I have. He comes entirely for Hamas, this enemy that's attacking. The direction of their faces are forward, and he gathers up captives like the sand.
Wow.
So here, this Hamas includes or involves kidnapping. Right? They're kidnapping people. They're taking them captive. In this case, in an invasion, in a raid, right? I mean, it's exactly what happened. Literally what happened on October 7th.
What happened.
Not even similar, literally what happened on October 7th. It's the type of raid that would have happened in history centuries ago, happened in the year 2023. Jeremiah 13:22 is the next one we want to look at. And here we can see the connotation of Hamas involving rape. And actually, while you're looking for that, can you talk about, we have a graphic for this episode, which we really prayed about whether we were going to use this graphic. And it's a graphic from a video that was put out by Hamas, quite proud. They put it out because they were proud of it. They were bragging about what they did. And it has a woman named, a 19-year-old girl named Nehemia Levi. Can you talk about that?
So we did pray about it. We've talked a lot about it. She's still in captivity at this moment. One of the things that I want us to do together is to pray for the captives. I know that years from now, when you look at this teaching, they'll no longer be captive. But right now, they're still captive, and we need to pray especially for Nehemia Levi. Her last name, she's a
Levite.
She's a Levite. And it's one of the pictures that many women can't look at. It's taken months and months and months for me to look at it. I looked at it again last night, and these things are traumatic to. One of the things, Nehemia, that you mentioned in the Bible is that we have euphemisms, especially for what we're about to talk about. And the reason, why do we use euphemisms for these types of things? Why do they use euphemisms in the Bible, Nehemia?
Let's start with what's a euphemism.
Okay.
A euphemism is, and let's state the, for years from now, someone may not know who Nehemia Levi is or what this image is. and they might be listening to it and not see the image. So can you tell them
Okay, let me
what's
tell you
in
what
the image?
the image is of a young woman, 19 years old. The film shows her, this guy with a big armament, pulling her from the back of a Jeep where she's stuffed in a little area. There's blood. She's been beaten around her face.
What's she wearing?
She's wearing sweatpants and a shirt.
It's clear she was sleeping in her pajamas when she was kidnapped.
The pants the sweatpants, they push her, they take her from the back and they put her around and they push her into the middle of many men sitting in the back of this vehicle. And she has blood from the behind, you can see all the way at the top of her pants in the back, down through her legs. And it's obvious that she's been abused, not
Let's
just
not use a
beaten.
euphemism. What happened to her?
She was raped. Enough that there's blood spilled all over, everywhere. That's Hamas. And we'll read in the Bible where this has happened, and it's Hamas.
That's literally one of the meanings of Hamas in the Hebrew.
It is. And
That
a
we're about to
euphemism
see.
is when we say something like someone had relations with someone.
Or you said she was abused. You just used a euphemism.
yeah,
She wasn't
abused.
abused. She was
Okay.
violently raped.
She was.
Probably by multiple people. And probably, can we say it?
I don't know what you're going there. I don't know. Oh,
You don't even want to say it.
I don't know where you're going with it, but she was things that are so offensive that you can't hear them. That's when you use a euphemism.
Yeah, also in the Tanakh, things that are scary. So there's
Yeah.
one euphemism, which is whenever the word afolim appears in the Tanakh, and it appears, I don't know the number, but a number of times, it's instead of that word, when they would read it out loud in the synagogue, they would instead read the word tchorim. Now, what is afolim? Afolim are the boils of the Black Plague. Why wouldn't they say that word? There was obviously a superstition that if you say that word, the plague might come to your town and you'd die. And so they said another word that also means the boils of the Black Plague, but it was a word that somehow wasn't frightening to them. So think about that. And the word that was frightening is written in the Bible, and even today when they read it in the synagogue, they read this other word, because there's this memory, this cultural memory that word is so frightening that you can't even say it. Like, think about that, thousands of years later. When we have antibiotics for the Black Plague, it's still frightening to people.
So after October the 7th, and I'm sure I wasn't the only woman to do this.
So we were in Israel, and you're in Jerusalem.
We were, and we were in
Tell them what happened.
Israel, and we knew what had happened. You know, we knew all this. We were following very closely what had happened. We saw the videos and the pictures that Hamas put out. I mean, it was impossible not to put them across the AP. Some of these violent photos.
Some of the
won
photographers.
awards.
Some of the photographers were Hamas terrorists.
Right. That's exactly right. And so I would personally, Nehemia and I, we did a lot of filming during that time. We wanted people to know what was happening. And so when we would go out, normally I would wear a dress. Love to wear long dresses. It's very comfortable to me. But I would wear lots of clothes underneath. I would wear 2 layers of clothes, didn't matter how hot it was. And I would wear my combat boots in case I had to run, because there were infiltrations that would happen in your area and you didn't know if a terrorist was in the area. We lived, Nehemia has a place in Jerusalem. And there's a whole Arab area in Jerusalem, and I'm not being judgmental. All I'm saying is that there are things that have happened in that area and still do to this day right now, and probably will until Yehovah comes to establish.
So let's not use euphemisms. What were you doing and why?
I was dressing to make it very difficult if someone wanted to rape me. Yeah.
So you were wearing multiple layers,
Absolutely.
So they would take them longer and make it
more difficult.
Make it logistically more difficult.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot you can do,
wow.
guys. There's not a lot you can do. You know, there was nothing those young women could do to protect themselves, except everything there was not a whole lot you could do. You run, you hide.
And that was the moment where I said, okay, I've got to get my wife out of here. She's not, we were planning on leaving anyway, but when I saw that, I'm like, okay, this is not a healthy situation.
I wasn't afraid of the bomb. I wasn't afraid of a bombing. I wasn't afraid of missiles overhead that were going off. Wasn't afraid of that, because Nehemia and I, if something happened like that, we're together. It's okay. I do want to lose my husband, but together it's okay. And I know you guys that are married and love each other will understand that, but I didn't want. That would be awful. I mean, it's awful for the woman, but it's also awful for a husband in that situation. So, yeah.
All right, Jeremiah 13:22. What does your JPS say?
And when you ask yourself, why have these things befallen me?
Oh, let me stop you here. So in Hebrew, we have 4 ways of saying you. What are the 4 ways? I'm putting you on the spot.
No,
She studied Hebrew at Old Pond last year.
Atata.
Wait, no, go on. Atata.
Atata. My brain is not going there. Atim.
There you go.
Okay.
So we have.
Atim.
So we have 4 different yous, because there's masculine and feminine, singular and plural. So there's masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, feminine plural. Now, why is that important? Because there aren't a whole lot of passages in the Tanakh that are in the feminine you. Usually when someone's addressed, they're addressed as you masculine. Here, it's when you, and it's feminine, because the context here, earlier in the passage, is the Queen of Israel, which might be a metaphor for Jerusalem, but literally it's the Queen of Israel.
Okay.
Or the Queen of Judah, I suppose.
And when you ask yourself, why have these things befallen me? It is because of your great iniquity, that your skirts are lifted up and your limbs exposed.
Oh, your limbs exposed. So that's the euphemism. That's not what it says in the Hebrew. It says let's see. The King James has, thy skirts discovered and thy heels made bare. So there it's heels, which it is in the Hebrew. So literally what it says is your heels were chamast. And heels in the Hebrew is a euphemism because it wasn't her heels that were chamast.
Right.
It was her, I'm going to use a euphemism too. Well, maybe not. It was her genitals that were chamast. She was raped. Here, chamas means raped. Literally raped. Meaning that's what it means. So when it says your heels were chamast, the image there is, she's bent or laid down on her back, and her heels are sticking up in the air, and the man is coming and raping her. And chamas here means they were raped. But it says your heels were raped because it doesn't want to say your genitals are raped, even for the Tanakh, that's too explicit. But think about this. The King James added another, and the JPS too, they both added another level of euphemism, right? So the JPS has your limbs exposed, and the King James has thy heels made bare, right? NIV has, and your body mistreated, right? So mistreated is a better translation of Hamas, right? So really it's violence were done against your heels, meaning you were raped, right? Which kind of violence, right? He wasn't, hitting your heels, right?
Well, here in the NRSV it says, and you are violated.
Right. So that's a euphemism too. She was raped.
Of course.
Right. So, so how do we know that? Because the first half of the verse is your skirt was laid bare, right? So, I hate to be he lifted up her skirt, he pushed her down, lifted up her skirt, and she wasn't wearing 4 layers, and he raped her, right? So Hamas here literally means rape. So should we be surprised at what happened on October 7th? They call themselves Hamas, and it wasn't that there was a rogue terrorist who raped a Jewish woman.
That's true. That's right.
There were terrorists who were captured by Israel, and in the interrogation, they said, that guy, we had a group, we had a team, and there was one member of the team whose job it was to operate the maps another member who was to operate, the drone, and another member whose job it was to rape. And they were told what kind of people to rape and how many to rape. Yeah. So they were given orders in advance, you're part of the rape squad. Right? That was a strategy of war, or a tactic, maybe you could say, of war.
Terror.
Yeah, it was 100% to strike terror in the heart of Israelis, and it was very effective, quite frankly. It was evil, but it was definitely effective. It traumatized the entire Jewish people, and probably beyond the Jewish people, in a way that, I don't know, I haven't seen since 9/11.